What's up, everybody? I'm James. Welcome to Mechanical Mayhem, and welcome to a stroll down memory lane. This is a novel series from BattleTech. These 8 books represent the Twilight of the Clan series, and I wanted to share them with you because I enjoyed this series growing up. I think it's cool to see all 8 books out, and this series has a unique distinction in it in that Exodus Road, book 1 of the series, would be my very first BattleTech novel. Now, I knew about BattleTech prior to getting this novel. I've been a fan of BattleTech prior, but the 90s, I was a kid. So let's, I guess, delve into that a little bit, and then we'll check out some of the insides in terms of what's in these books and whatnot. But in any case, put into perspective, I was born in 85, so I was a kid in the 90s. And prior to discovering Exodus Road, which I believe came out in 97. So a few years prior to that, I would stumble across the Sega game BattleTech and be introduced to MechWarrior 2 at a friend's house for the original kind of DOS setup of that game. In any case, that would happen roughly around the same time. And my kid brain would go to work and kind of piece together that these are indeed one and the same in terms of setting. And then I would also piece together that with the BattleTech animated series and the cartoon show and things relating to that, like the toys and the comics and whatnot. And I would eventually piece things together. You have to remember, at this time, the internet was a fledgling thing in people's households. I only knew very few people who had the internet in their house. I didn't have the internet at home, not up until basically halfway through the series, I guess you could say, is when I would eventually get internet at home. So I was a kid. I had no job. I had no money. I had no car or the ability to drive it. I was at the whims of whatever I had access to. So I knew of these things and of the vendors and whatnot because I had a comic and game store nearby that I was able to basically walk to and check out and supervised because crossing major streets. But anyway, so I know about the technical readouts and the miniatures, but not the novels. So one day I would be in the bookstore with my mom. We were walking through the different sections, and in the sci-fi fantasy section, there would be some BattleTech books, and I recognized the name. But again, kid brain, not really thinking about trademark and intellectual property and copyright or anything like that. So I investigated, and with Exodus Road, I saw the Timberwolf knocking out a crab here. And the Timberwolf is what you play as in Sega Genesis, for the BattleTech game for the Sega Genesis, and it's prominently displayed in MechWarrior 2 a lot. So I put 2 and 2 together, and indeed the answer was 4, and I was like, oh, this is the same thing. And I was able to get it, which is pretty cool. So before going any further, what I like about these novels, not just these particular novels of BattleTech, but in general, a lot of them tend to do the chapters where it kind of tells you where you're at, the time, not the time, but the date. I was going to say time period, but the date and where you're at and what's going down a little bit, which is pretty cool. A lot of these books, not all of them, but a lot of them would have what's what I'm looking for? Kind of like a little visual aid thing in the back. So if you didn't know what you were looking at in terms of reading about, like the Atlas, for example, or the Venom, or the Daikyu, and there are others in here as well, there's a little visual representation. I really like that because they can describe them, in writing form, and they do, but being able just to see a picture makes it click in your head sometimes that much quicker and easier. Now, Prince of Havoc doesn't have a visual medium in the back, but like these other novels in this series, it would have a small little excerpt of Falcon Rising in the very end to kind of wet your whistle and get you hyped for it, I suppose, if they used that term back in the day, which they didn't. But anyways, with that said, what I like about this series, and it's not unique to BattleTech, Lord of the Rings did this, right, with the Fellowship and all that jazz, is that they all have their own title. Exodus Road, Grave Covenant, The Hunters, Freebirth, Sword and Fire, Shadows of War, Prince of Havoc, and Falcon Rising are Twilight of the Clans 1 through 8, which is pretty cool. Now, these are the original books that I did get, and I want to give a shout out to my parents there, because could have easily said, nah, you don't need to get a book, or, you know, not that rubbish or something like that. They would not literally like that, but my point is, instead of denying reading, it was encouraged. So I think that's really important, because reading is super cool, right? I wish I could do more of it and had the mindset to do more of it as an adult. But in any case, so I read Exodus Road and I enjoyed it, and I was able to eventually amass the series, which is pretty cool. And while this might be considered, in terms of you know, serious novel readers for sci-fi setting, as kind of trashy or junk food books, they're still books, and junk food is tasty. So I say, if a kid is interested in reading something, you know, that's appropriate to read, of course, don't deny it, because, you know, that's awesome. Anyways, that little soapbox over. I do know you were able to get these as a PDF form years ago. I think you still get them digitally. One thing that was an interesting thing to me was these books in the digital form were different from these printed versions. They didn't have the latest revision, I suppose, that went to print. I don't know why. I don't know how this works in the realm of publishing or whatever, but they had like the edition prior. So there were some differences between the digital version and these hard copies. And what was pretty cool, at least I thought it was an interesting concept, and that they actually addressed this, is they said, look, this is how it goes, this is what we got. In terms of canonicity, the printed novels take priority over the digital stuff. And I thought that was pretty neat. Also, in 2019, Forever Faithful, I believe is the name of the novel, was released as kind of like a sequel to the Twilight of the Clan series, which is pretty cool too. Anyways, pretty great cover art. Not that the cover, you should never judge a book by its cover. Yeah, I get that, but I mean, look at that. That's pretty iconic shot right there, in my opinion. Anyways, cool stuff all across the board. These are the original novels, like I said, that I got as a kid. It got to the point that I pretty much got these in the year they came out. So, pretty hot off the presses, I suppose. But anyways, they are a little worn, right? They are, I guess you could say, well-loved. I read them a couple of times throughout the years. I'm a clan fan. That's how I get into Battletech. I really like the setup of the clans. Clan Smoke Jaguar is my clan. Even though this is basically about the downfall of the clans a bit and the destruction of Clan Smoke Jaguar, it didn't do anything to hinder my fandom, which is not anything crazy or special, but just worth pointing out. Also, these novels have survived moving around a bunch. At the very least, I always keep Exodus Road with me. Like, not so much wherever I go, but when I've moved, the several times that I have moved around to different states, things would go into storage. But I always made sure at least Exodus Road was part of the stuff I would have in an apartment or wherever else I was living, up until I would eventually get all my stuff again. All of these were present in an apartment I was living in when the apartment right next door to mine in the same building caught fire. Luckily, my apartment did not get consumed in the flames, but it did get absolutely annihilated with water and smoke. But these guys survived it, so I'm really happy about that. Just wanted to throw it out there as well. Anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling on and on. So, if you've read any Battletech novels, which one was your first? Do you own the Twilight of the Clan series? What did you think about it? Let me know all that and more in the comment section. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'll probably bust out some other of stuff that I've had over the years, because why not take a stroll down memory lane. Anyways, until next time, take care.